YouTube Algie here. Actually, this is another short story I wrote, and this has been a very long story in the making, and I only had gotten the title of it based off a picture I looked at about, I could say about 3-4 years ago, that when I was at my son's school, I used to have to go and wait in the office area for or dropping off stuff or dropping off papers or blah blah blah. There's always this picture on the wall that I always looked at, and it looked like a French chateau. And it had a huge pine tree that stood along with it. I am going to put the picture in the thumbnail. I believe I should still have it in my photos, but just to this picture I've gotten made this, it just came in and and I mean I got like the pattern you would say, like, of the story, like a blueprint. And what I wanted to do was do to the pine trees when they're so tall and high. And they are always, and I mean not always, but when the pine trees that are full in bloom, it's the pattern or the blueprint, I want to call it, of the story. I wanted to kind of put in, of course, it'd be something very different, and I gotta always be unique. And since so far in my lifetime of watching movies or whatever, or some books I have read, I have never heard of anybody putting a murder on top of a pine tree. That's right, a murder on top of a pine tree. And that will explain later on in this story. So, chateau, pine tree, murder. I had to literally, for the past 3-4 years, this story, I've been trying, like I said, to think of something, a pattern for this, a blueprint. And just the other day, 3 days ago, it just flooded my mind. Flooded it. And the things that I've been encountering in my life lately, I put in this story. And I'll explain more at the end of what it really is, the meaning of. And I think for a fact that due to these encounters I've been having, that you will find out at the end of the story, and I'll explain more, is why this story just flooded my brain. So without further ado, I'm going to narrate Murder at the Chateau. And also what made me write this story real quick is I was going to put it up in the short and scary stories website that I still have my name on the top 5 authors. I am very honored for that to be said. And what sucks is I wrote this friggin' story like on a memo pad or a documents, and I can't not copy it and paste it on this goddamn short and scary story website, and it's pissing me the hell off because now I gotta rewrite the whole goddamn thing. I was hoping to goddamn paste the damn thing, and yeah, didn't work that way. So I wrote this whole long thing, not all to the end, but damn, this took me a whole day to write. Day and a half, due to all the interruptions and trying to make this story sensible. When I write something, of course, like any writer, I want it to be perfect. I got the end. I mean, the ending is like, it makes the sense of what I want, the meaning of the story, but hopefully it just ain't too cheesy, but I think it's the way I want it. But here it is. No, of course I gotta say this. For any new viewers or anything, why I'm in the dark. That's because, right, narrations are the best in the dark. You want to shut all your lights off. With my stories, I tell you to shut the lights down. I tell you to close your eyes and you visualize the story yourself. Now, the only thing I got in this that I'm kind of iffy on is the time of year, which I said it back in 1952. But it kind of sets the story right. But back in the well, when the hell did they make radio? When they made radio, and back, I believe, in the 1920s and 30s. Oh, yeah, they used to have radio shows. For people that don't know this, that you kids would literally sit, instead of watching TVs, because there wasn't no TVs, the radio had their action and adventure. And they would put noises, and sound effects, and it was awesome back in them days, man, to hear that stuff. I mean, I ain't got the sound effects, but I got the twisted mind that can set you off in another dimension, another world. And my stories are sometimes based on facts, truth, because there are some. Anyways, yeah. So, you want to always have your mind and memory, like me, always aware of things, because you don't know who's among us. You don't know who lives among us. And just before I get started, sorry, but I gotta make a point. California, 15 children. It's on the news all over the place. Malnourished, chained up, kept captive in their own home by their own sick, twisted parents. And this would probably be something similar to them people. That's right. You know what? You can't cover coat the world in what monsters lurk among us. And I like to put that in my stories, and I like to make it known, and I like to throw that out there every time I'm in a conversation. You don't know who's out there. And that's why I am today of who I am. Because of that fact. Who lives among us? And sick people. And I just take things that I think that have happened and occurred, or things that I've seen in my life with my own eyes, and something similar to this. But I just threw in the nest in what I'm going to explain later on. Just because of the simple fact. What is in this, I experienced on my own with truth, will be revealed at the end of the story. So let's get on with this. Enough of the BS. But I say, turn that light out, sit back, and imagine this. It was 1952 in a mid-sized town, population 10,000. In this town, everyone knew someone. People were humble, polite, and kids could play and just get along. It was a warm summer day. People were going about their daily routine when a car rolled into town at the general store. With a man, his wife, and 2 children, he got out to talk to the store owner. The man was very well dressed, polite, looking for his great-aunt's chateau. At the end of the town, his son followed him in the store. And as any small child, he was mischief, talkative little boy, touching things and asking a lot of questions. For the wife sat in the car with the baby sister in her arms, staring out of the windshield of the car. From what the people in the store did see, is she looked very dark, in ways that made the ones looking uneased. The newborn baby girl sat in the arms of her mother sleeping, as the husband talked highly of his daughter and son, and the new life they were going I didn't put going, but were to start in their new home that his great aunt left them. As they drove away from the store, journeyed to their new home, and journeyed, the owner turned to his wife. Boy, just like his great aunt. What a wonderful person. It's nice to have him here. But the wife looked uneased, and her husband asked what's wrong and just shook her head and went back to work. A week went by, and the husband kept coming to the store for food supplies and even started his business as of caning chairs and woodworking. Things were looking good for his family, and the town accepted them as great people, even though his great aunt was a superb person herself, and when her husband died a few years back, she lived as long as she could, and the town knew her love was strong for her husband, and she just was not the same. Her great-nephew was holding the memory of her strong. A year and a half went by. The nephew was busy in his barn on a hot summer day. He was going out to take a break from caning a chair, when all of a sudden, on top of one of the huge pine trees that towered his yard, happened to see a huge black bird perch on top of on top of it. Began to croak, and right away knew it was a raven, and getting a bad vibe from it, but shrugged it off because he was not superstitious. As he turned his head to go to the house to get a drink, he noticed his wife stare at the black bird through a window with pure hate and evil glare. He couldn't understand why she was doing that, so he continued to the house and broke her stance, and she jumped as nothing wrong. He asked if she was all right. Then she quickly walked to the sink and said fine. Not going any further to ask about what he just saw, he got his drink and headed back to the barn. Days went by, and the raven still perched, the tall pine, croaking at the husband as he worked. One day the husband was in the barn, hard working on a table for a new customer. As he was staining the table, he heard from a distance the raven croaking. Then it let out an insane screech. Then his wife screamed. He ran to the house yelling her name, and what happened? He got upstairs to the baby's room. The baby somehow fell on the floor from the bed. She was going to pick the baby up till her husband said, "Let me see, let me see." He cradled the child as it lay limp in his arms. He shook her a little and kept calling her name. Finally, she let out a scream, and the husband, full of joy, kept saying her, "You poor thing." He asked his wife what had happened. She said she went to went to wet the cloth to wipe the baby. She turned, then she was on the floor. As the husband bounced the baby and got her calmed down, the wife stood aside with no emotional vibes, but yet the husband took no notice and went about calling the doctor to check the child. And nothing was serious. A couple of months went by. Things seemed to be going well. The husband turned and getting out of the car with supplies, his wife screaming out the front door, ran into his arms hysterically. He was trying to calm her down, but she screamed out, "She's missing. Where's the boy?" "In his room," she yelled. He ran throughout the house, in the yard, in the woods, losing his mind, noticing his wife just standing, staring at the ground. He yelled out her name as she stood looking up now at the sky and noticed the black bird back circling the house. Now the raven had gone for a while, but now he soared high, and the feeling he once had and just got worse. With looking for hours and still no daughter coming forth, the husband told his wife to bring the boy to the house and keep searching. Then all of a sudden, a man who had got his life going and was just as happy as anyone else in the town he called home ran in the store screaming, "My baby girl is missing. Where is the authorities?" As he was looking for the police, the two police officers who ran the town, the store owner grabbed the phone, began to dial the police. The operator said they were on their way. As he sat there pulling his hair and repeating, "Where did she go?" The police did a full search of the property for 5 days and no baby girl. The police apologized multiple times because they couldn't find the baby. The mother of the wife came to stay with her daughter and son-in-law, and things were getting intense. The wife would sit looking out the window speechless. The husband would ask his wife what happened. She would not say a word. The police did interview her, and she told them the baby took a nap, and after tending to her son and went to check on the girl, she was gone. The police left it at that due to her not talking much and not eating. They did follow up to see anyone seeing any drifter that may be any drifter that may have that may have passed through town, but nothing. 3 weeks went by, still no sighting of the child. The husband standing in his barn one day, staring at the chair he was trying to finish. The raven landed at the barn doors, croaking at him. In a bit of rage, he stood up and began to scream at the bird, "Be off, you devil bird. You came here, now my daughter is gone." He ran to kick the bird, but it took off to the top of the tree, croaking. A few more days of this continued, until one day his wife stood to the same window, glazing the bird with her eyes bugging out of her head. The husband could not believe his wife was looking at the bird and kept to herself all this time. And now that he has been yelling at this bird, she was taking notice. The husband began to watch his wife towards this bird, and it was insane. She was trying to kill it. She was starting to not even. Her mother was frustrated. Very bad connection. God damn it. I hope this don't screw up. Her and her stepson couldn't understand. At the barn door, the husband stood up and slowly walked towards the bird. Walked out the door, the bird croaked, then flew on the first branch on the tall pine, like it was trying to tell him something. He looked up the tree and to his surprise saw a huge nest that was not there before. Almost at the top of the tree, thinking it was the raven's nest. But a blast of knowledge kicked in and realized that ravens did not live in nests. They lived in or around cliffs or small caves. As the husband started to point to the bird and tried to understand why he was flying around, his wife stormed out the door, screaming and swinging a large stick. "Kill it! Kill it!" A demonic look on her face, swinging to kill the bird. The raven flew to the nest. The husband grabbed his wife in total shock to his wife's behavior. He yelled, "What are you doing?" "Must kill it," she snarled. He got her back in the house, thinking maybe the daughter... Oops, hang on again. Thinking maybe the daughter thing was... Let me start that over. He got her back in the house, thinking maybe the daughter thing was getting to her. He called the doctor to have her checked. The doctor gave her a relaxing drug to sleep and get some rest. He talked about what happened, confused. The next day came, and the raven came to visit once more. The husband once again led to the tree and thinking what the doctor said, that the raven brings you to death, not bring you death upon you. What did that mean? Over and over he ran it through his head. Then it happened again. The bird, making himself known again, flew to the top of the tree. And the wife, all rested, woke up. And the rage she showed scared her husband now. She tried to burn the tree down. The grandmother called the doctor while the husband fought to stop his wife by burning the tree. A straitjacket was brought, and the wife was strapped up. As she was being strapped, she screamed at everyone, "The devil's bird must die," and sent to the hospital. More went on of talking on what to do. The wife was now 4 days locked up, and the husband sat trying to pull himself together. His son was with the grandmother at her house, and the husband once again got his visitor. He followed the raven to the tree up on the branch, trying to figure out what this bird wanted. So out of instinct, he climbed the tree. The raven flew to the nest, croaking loudly more than before. As the husband kept climbing, he reached the nest. And to his surprise, there in the nest, he screamed in horror, going hoarse as he screamed. The doctor and the police came to the screams. They were told by the wife what had happened. She knew it was over hearing her husband's cries and screaming. He took a while, but when he came around, the doctor told him why the baby was dead. The wife was jealous. Ever since that thing she said was born, she claims you lost interest in her, spent more time with that bitch. The doctor reassured him that his wife had lost her mind. Sometimes mothers don't know how to deal with another female in their life. Sometimes it goes bad and this kind of thing happens. But on why she did what she did with the nest, the husband cut him off. Yet what was with the nest? Why, with tears in his eyes, with confusion? Why was my baby in the nest? Well, people misunderstand the raven. People see it as the devil's bird. Bad luck. Death is coming. But it's not. The raven is a sacred Native American bird. And just like the hawk and the horned-eared owl, this bird, like the others, is a messenger. This bird shows you where a death is or once was. And your baby brought out the bird. That day you said your baby was on the floor, most likely she was dead. You brought her back to life, and your wife at that time was infuriated. So now we know the rest of the story. She saw that bird. Obviously, you two only knowing this bird as the devil bird, she used it at the right time. And well, sorry for your loss. but she will hang for what she's done. So that being said, the Raven. I got people telling me that I had a raven come to my door almost a week ago, telling me it's bad luck, telling me there's death or something bad's gonna happen. But guess what? If you look up an article of all totems, they will tell you that that bird is a very playful bird, and it can be a very stressful bird. And the stress that I've been enduring in the past year or so now, I guess that's a sign. But also, what I found out and learned from the raven is what I say in this story, is that this bird brings you or shows you where a death was or once was. And why? Because I have proof. Because I went to Templeton, Mass. I have the videos up if you want to check them out. The first video was, they're both titled the same thing. American Woman, Indians, no, what was it? Shit. American Woman, Indian Suicide. And there's part 1, part 2. First video, my phone screwed up. And I got this very strange noise that came in. And I have a friend of mine named Harry talking about Native American drums. Then I had to go back to that place. And I used the same phone, mind you. A week later, or 2 weeks later, I went back. The videos are up. And when I went back to that spot, the video went through fine. But guess who flew out amongst the wall of where that once Native American woman princess had taken her own life, suicide, poor thing, because her father wanted to force her to marry a chief of another tribe. But she, back then, if, you know, Indians are ugly. Women don't like ugly women, ugly men back then, I guess. Yeah, she was being forced. She killed herself at that rock at Templeton, Mass. And the mighty raven flew over my head because I kept talking about it. I know it is because I have a book about it. But that leads me to believe that that bird was telling me that I was in the right spot, because I was having, and I did say it on camera, that I was hoping I was at the right place, but it was a mile from the center of the town where the gazebo is in Templeton, Mass, off of Partridgeville Road. And if you go a mile down, I believe on Berry Road, and it's exactly a mile that I did in the car's speedometer, the mile marker. I reset it. And that raven flew over my goddamn head, so I knew I was in the right spot. So that's what made me come up with this, the section of this story, because it's been in the making, and I was trying to figure out what could I have in that tree. A murder in the tree. The mother murdered the baby, put it in the nest, trying to blame the raven. Because that's a lot of people think the raven's the devil's bird. The raven's death. It isn't. You're all wrong. You got it wrong, because it's landed at my front door, and I don't see nothing happening bad in my future but good. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed that story. That just rushed to my head a few days ago. Murder at the Chateau. Simple picture. This is what I come up with. I mean, I love to try and make short stories, because writing a book, man, oh man, I wouldn't be able to do. I'd have to literally read out what I want on paper and have someone type it, because I suck. Typing on the phone even sucks. Oh, boy. Other than that, world of YouTube, I bring you back to the 1920s of narrating stories. I don't think it would be good to have sound effects in here. I don't got a bird flapping around or croaking, so I'll have to figure out how I would do that. Anyways, hope you enjoyed it. Be safe, take care, and just like the story and what I said in the beginning, you never know who lives among us. And this could certainly well happen if you find the right freak. And they're out there. And that world of YouTube live. Till that next video. Out.